Because we have a great topic to share with you. We're going to talk about parasites today, something that's concerning during the summer months. And my name is Dr. Cheryl Reifer. I am a registered dietitian and the Director of Scientific Affairs for Coral Club in North America. And we're going to talk about, what are parasites, why is that a concern, what are some things that we can do, and what do we need to be aware of in general, especially during the summertime months when it's more prevalent. And you may not know that it's more prevalent than you think. 20% of the Earth's population has an issue with parasites at some time or another. It's not just certain countries, although definitely if you have more issues with the water contamination and food contamination in more parts of the world than others at different times. But it's still prevalent everywhere. So we just need to be aware and have some practices of some things that we can do. So I'm going to take you through some steps and some thoughts and ideas. And as we go along, if you're thinking of questions, you can go ahead and put that in the chat box, because at the end we can look at that and hear about your experiences or your ideas to share, or any questions that you may have. And hopefully by now people have had a chance to join in, and we can get going more. So again, the thing about parasitic issues is that we aren't always aware that we're having an issue with that, because we may have fatigue, we might have malaise, we're not quite sure what's wrong, we know that we're not sleeping well, we know that we're even sometimes hungry, because certain types of parasites can affect if we get the food in our bodies the way we need to. So we have to be aware of, there's different forms too of parasites, like protozoa, helminths, you might have heard that term, tapeworms, and all kinds of ways that we can get exposed that we don't think about, like even when we pet our dog. So we have to be aware of that, and just looking at just what to look for. Even if you have difficulty sleeping, we talked about that, and your appetite. Let's talk about what are parasites in general. We talked about a few types, but generally think of when you have an uninvited guest in your home, or where you have an invited guest but you wish that they would go home. So your body is your home, you want to keep it healthy and well, and if you have an unwelcome guest that feeds on you in some way, for example, one of the definitions from the CDC is that parasites are organisms that derive nourishment and protection from other living organisms known as hosts. So that could be us, that could be humans. Organisms that live on or near a host and get food at the expense of the host is another commonly used definition in the medical world of parasites. So generally, also different kinds of environments that we're exposed to, like daycare centers. Think of that when you take a child to the restroom, everybody has to wash their hands. If you're changing a baby's diaper, you have to wash your hands, because feces is another venue that parasites can reach you. So we have to have good sanitation habits, but also in the summer months we like to be out and about. We like to be swimming and hiking and having fun. And you may think, oh wow, that river water, that looks really good, I'd love to fill up my thermos. Well, you just have to know, is that water contaminated? Is it safe for you to drink that water? It's a good idea to boil water for a minute. It's even better idea if you can bring your own bottled beverages if you're going on a hike. And even when you're swimming, especially children might tend to do this, but you have to close your mouth and not swallow the water. You don't know where that water's been. Think of it that way. So you don't want to be swallowing that water, because then that's another way that parasites can reach you. So just think about too, also when you're hiking, you're burning off a lot of calories, you might get hungry. So if you're going to grab things like fruit, was it washed first? What kind of dry foods can you take? Maybe take dried fruit and nuts and things that hold up well in weather, because parasites love warmth. They love sitting at a what we call danger zone temperature. Foods too. Foods as well have that issue. So you don't want foods to sit out in a hot sun, and refrigeration does not kill parasites if they're already there either. That's another thing. So we just want to do what we can to prevent. That's a main thing. And also, young children and pregnant women and elderly have more issues in that they have a lesser strong immune system, right? So we can do things to build our immune systems, of course. We can make sure we get 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. We can make sure we're drinking plenty of fluids, right? 1.5 to 2 liters a day minimal, more in the summer and during exercise to make sure that we're flushing waste products out of the cells. It also helps with parasitic issues too, so to get that fluid in. But so, you know, we do have the issues of the age in the immune system, but what can you do to help your immune system too, to stay strong? It's, you know, probiotics, prebiotics, the types of foods you eat, the diet that you have, how much sleep you get, what you do to alleviate stress, all that helps your immune system. So it's a combination of things. So we talked a little bit about the food. Let's talk about preparation of the food. When you have fruits and vegetables and meats, you don't want to mix food that's been on a cutting board that's had raw meat and put fresh fruit on that cutting board and slice it. You are exposing that fruit to the juices of the meat that have bacteria and that have been sitting, and you definitely don't want to do that. Another thing that I've seen in the food service world, you never want to see this. You don't want to see somebody storing raw meat where juices could drip down on lettuce or something that's below it. That's why sometimes at restaurants, every once in a while, you hear people might have some illness that happens. It's caused from things like that. So just at home, it's just as important how you store your food. And I know that some things are tasty raw that are a little different, like sushi, right? Raw fish, if it's prepared right, if it's stored properly at the right temperature, it's safe to eat, but every once in a while something could happen in that course, especially if you're traveling. That's another thing. But what you may not know is the wasabi, which is that Japanese horse root, actually has some antimicrobial properties, actually has something in it that has antimicrobial properties. So it's not just that it adds a lot of taste to the food, it actually adds some benefits to helping you combat possible parasites, if that could be an issue. And even the ginger too, it's another thing that's what they call it antimicrobial. Is there some other spices like oregano, and there's some others. So it's something to be aware of when you're enjoying your sushi or your carpaccio, which is a raw beef that's common in travels. It's because it's not cooked. You just have to be more aware that that's a food that could have a parasitic issue with it. So just being aware of where your food's coming from, how it's stored, the temperature it's served at, and all those types of things. So some other sources of exposure too, look at playgrounds. Anytime you have public transportation, you're hanging on to a handle that other people have touched. So just think of all of those things. It could be good to carry the hand sanitizers with you and to just have good practices there. Switches and door handles, and even insects can be a way that things can be transmitted. So especially if you love to travel in the summer, that's just something to be aware of there. So we talked about protection. What are some other ideas? Well, if you're making things like tuna salad, potato salad, just make sure to keep those cooler and refrigerated where it's not sitting out. Don't let raw meat sit in the sun, of course, too, if you're getting ready to do a cookout or a barbecue. So you want to just be aware of your surroundings and how you're preparing foods and things like this. So we talked about contaminated water, of course, and be aware of our food sources. The other thing is we have to also build our immune systems through our diet. We talked about that because our gastric environment plays a role in our immune system. So we were talking about prebiotics and probiotics, but think about at your picnic maybe having kimchi or some kind of fermented food. So that's why yogurt is so popular, but also there's fermented foods to think about. So that could be good to add to help, and as well as you know, we want to build our microflora. So what we have prepared for you is idea of having a challenge where you can complete a program where you can take a series of products that will really help you build your immune system and help you with the purification and the restoration of that gut flora. By being guided by a mentor that will give you support throughout your program. And what's nice about this is on the back, it tells you all the products that are in the box. And also, I just want to open this for a moment to show you that you have this lovely little handout, which I love because it says what the set is including. It tells you what products, a little blurb about each one, what it does for you, and it gives you an overview too. It even tells you on the back when to take each product, what time of day, to remind you to take your 1.5 liters of water with your coral mine. You know that's very important for hydration, but it's also important, again, continuing on with the parashield. So we want to kind of detox, boost our immunity, as we said, restore that intestinal microflora, and of course drink our water. So we have 5 products: Paraphyte, which have antimicrobial properties. We have our coral burdock root, which helps our metabolism and helps our purification and get rid of toxins. MSM, which we all know is organic sulfur, that's also very good. There's some vitamin C in that, and it's great antioxidant, great for your hair and nails as well. Superflora is giving us that probiotic. We were talking about building our immune system and having that probiotic. So having that bifidobacteria and lactobacteria. So we're getting that as well. And the coral mine, of course, again, that's from the waters of Okinawa, so it gives us that blend of 70 minerals and a good dose of magnesium. So we have all of that. We have our 90 capsules of Paraphyte. We have our, in each one of these, it tells us exactly how many products. So we have our, this one is coral burdock root, we have 90 capsules, and we have our Superflora, and we have 90 capsules. So again, we have our instructions, when to take the product, how many to take, and everything to last us. So we are getting a total of 330 capsules overall, 30 sachets, and a 30-day program. So this is a wonderful way to have a challenge, especially over the summer here, to make sure that you're getting the product here and following up with your mentor. Having said that, if you have any questions, if you could just, or comments or experiences you'd like to share, go ahead and type those in the text box and let us see if we can help answer those for you. Now it's interesting, even thinking about things like cat litter, pregnant women. The reason they say don't handle cat litter is because of the cat feces, and that's another form of parasite. So there's different reasons that for women, pregnant women, that are concerning with parasite exposure as well. So I know we're all out there having some summer fun. So just be aware when you're out in the sun to also use sunscreen, and to just be aware of what source you're swimming in, to make sure you don't swallow that water, to make sure that you're planning your snacks and your fluids where you're getting good non-contaminated sources, of course, of fluids. Nothing wrong with taking bottled water and bottled beverages. Anyway, just using common sense with your food planning and your dining out, and when you're traveling to another country, all of those things, just being aware of your surroundings. I have a funny story about milk for you. You reminded me. Milk, as long as it's pasteurized and kept cold, is not a problem. But when I was a teenager, I don't know, a teenager, if you call 19 years old or so a teenager, but I remember I was in Mexico and I had milk from a stand, some kind of outdoor stand, where for some reason they were serving milk. And I felt like a glass of milk. And I drank this milk, and I was thinking when I drank it, this seems warm to me. I wonder if that's okay. But I was 19, I didn't think much about it. And then later I started having some GI issues, and I thought, I bet it's that milk, that it was too warm, or maybe it wasn't pasteurized or something. So, but if it's a safe source, you know, I mean, by safe I mean it's pasteurized, it's kept cold, you've been able to keep it cold, and it hasn't sat at a temperature, what we call the danger zone is something like between 42 and 140 degrees. That's why meat you need to cook till they're done. Like pork, things where you can get trichinosis, like pork should be like 145 at least when you cook it. You don't want things to be at a temperature where there are certain bacteria that could grow and things like that. But with milk, yeah, if it's chilled and all of that, of course, it's perfectly fine. And another thing, if you like dried milk or powdered milk, canned milk, those are some other ideas. Sure, it's the same thing, just as long as it's, actually that's a great food because of the little bit of acid that's in it. As long as it's kept chilled and cold, it's absolutely fine. It's the same principle as how you would store other milk if you were going to drink it. So when you're traveling, as I did, just make sure the milk's chilled and that it's a source that you can verify it's pasteurized and things like that. In some parts of the world, if you're traveling, maybe they're not using pasteurized, treated manure. I don't know what the exact term on the manure is, but it has to be treated a certain way to be safe for your plants and in that form. So that's just a form. Feces is just another venue for parasites. So that's why you have to be aware if you're visiting other countries, kind of what's going on with their land and where you're visiting, if you're visiting crops or horticulture or things like that too. I mean, if you're talking about from a standpoint of a parasitic exposure, as long as the ingredients are dry and kept at the right temperature, alcohol is not something that can't be consumed it's not a concern what temperature it's at specifically, and a shake is a dry mix, but don't expect it to necessarily have the same health benefits when you put alcohol in things. It's the only thing I could say there. I mean, alcohol is one of those things. Alcohol and smoking are two things that can deplete your body of vitamins, B and C vitamins, for example. Yeah, these are unwelcome hosts, uninvited guests that we don't want. We want to take measures to make sure that we don't get exposed. Hopefully, we can definitely control some things in our environment, right? We can certainly control how we cook and store our food, where a source of water is, be aware of where our water is coming from so that we don't have that exposure. Be aware of things that you're touching. Take good measures when you're out there hiking and swimming and traveling in general. And I think, don't forget to follow up with your mentor, of course, on the Parashield Challenge. We want everybody to have a good experience with that, and we're anxious to hear your stories, how that goes for you. Share with us later about your experiences on that, and continue to keep following us as we bring you more and more programs. And again, my name is Dr. Cheryl Reifer. I'm a registered dietitian and director of Coral Club North America. We're coming to you from Dallas, Texas, and we've been speaking today about parasites and about our Parashield Challenge.